Welcome back to another episode of Beyond the Sold Sign Real Estate Unplugged. We are your host and favorite realtors, Naya
and Lauren,
and we're excited to be back with you all for another week and another episode. So let's get into this week's episode.
All right. When we decided to sell our home, we thought everything would go smoothly. The market was competitive, but there were still a lot of buyers out there. We set a reasonable asking price, and we had a few interested buyers pretty quickly. But one offer from a young couple came with a request for seller concessions. They asked us to cover some of their closing costs, which wasn't something we had really planned on. Our agent explained that in a more balanced market or when interest rates are high, buyers sometimes need that extra help to make the purchase affordable. At first, we weren't thrilled with the idea. It felt like giving away a part of our profit. But after discussing it, we realized that if we offered some concessions, we might actually get closer to our asking price overall by making the deal more attractive to the buyers. Plus, covering their closing costs would help them keep cash on hand, making them more confident about moving forward with the purchase. In the end, we agreed to cover a portion of their closing costs, and they accepted our counteroffer right away. We ended up closing quickly, and it actually saved us the stress of keeping the house on the market longer. Looking back, we're glad we were flexible, but it's definitely a decision that depends on your situation and the market.
Well,
what are seller concessions? Do you want to tell them what seller concessions are? You want me to tell them? Because that's big. Like, just starting off so y'all know what that even means.
Seller concessions are basically, I almost want to say I won't say credit, but seller concessions are funds that the seller agrees to give to the buyer, generally towards their closing cost.
Because you have buyers have when you're buying, you have to bring a down payment, and then you also have to bring your closing costs. So usually in total, like your down payment is usually between like maybe 3 and 3.5% minimum, and then your closing cost is somewhere probably right in the middle, around like 5%. So in total, you're bringing about 8% for like cash on hand, and that could be a lot of cash for a buyer to bring, especially like a first-time home buyer. So when a buyer presents an offer to a seller, they will put in an offer like, hey, we will offer you this amount, and can you please cover some of our closing costs? That will help alleviate some of the cash on hand, like some of the cash that they have to actually bring to the table. So to do that, what some buyers may do, and they didn't mention this here, what some buyers may do is they will increase the purchase price, so that way it will kind of offset when they ask for the seller to pay their concessions, because the seller here is correct. It does feel like it's coming out of their profit, and it is coming out of their profit. So if a buyer will just increase the purchase price and ask for, usually it's like 3% seller concession, and ask for that 3% seller concession, then it kind of offsets the amount, and it's like, oh, okay, it's not a hard hit on the seller because they're still netting the same amount of money.
So that's what seller concessions are.
No, you nailed it. No, you definitely know the definition.
Like these sellers said, they weren't at first thrilled with the idea, again, because they felt like, okay, this is cutting a little bit in our profit. But, they realized that being flexible, it didn't kill them in the end to be flexible. They're able to move forward, be fair, and make the buyers feel comfortable throughout the process because they were able to have more cash on hand. And what did they say? They said we might get closer to our asking price. So that was helpful, like you were sharing. But it all does depend on the market, the buyer. But it can be something that can really save a deal and bring buyers to the table to move forward.
Yep. Yeah. And do you feel like it can also hinder a buyer from getting the house? Like if it's, because like you said, the market. Right? So if you have a great listing and you have a bunch of buyers that are coming in to submit their offers, and the seller now lays all the offers out on the table, and they say these two offers are not asking us to contribute to their closing costs, but these two are, who do you feel like the sellers would go with?
That's a great question. So I guess generally a lot of times in that situation, a seller is likely going to lean towards those who aren't asking them for any money because they're like, okay, bet I don't have to cut down my profit anymore. But if you're on the other end as a buyer, like if you need it, you need it. And so it really doesn't hurt to ask because you would be surprised. You don't know what the other offers look like. And, sometimes in some magical way, like they can still pick your offer over others, even if you're asking for concessions compared to somebody else who might not be, because maybe you had something else in your offer that you were able to give or take away that was more favorable for them. Maybe it was the closing date or, something else.
That's true.
Maybe you were able to do a quicker closing than the person that wasn't asking. So,
that is true.
Go ahead and ask anyway.
Yeah, because it's about the whole package.
It really is the whole package.
Yeah.
So
not just that. And if you really want to stay competitive, like we were saying earlier, increase your offer price. So that way it doesn't make a difference to the seller if this offer came in at, if the offer price is $400,000, if they came in at $400,000 with the no seller concession, but then you come in at, I don't know, $425 with seller concessions, they may be like, oh, okay, well, we'll go ahead and take this. The only thing you have to worry about that mainly is the appraisal with that. But
yes.
That's your agent will definitely walk you through that and make sure that is all handled properly. So I'm glad. I was wondering if their agent actually spoke to them about this beforehand, because that's a big thing to, like, once you start getting offers as a seller and your agent didn't explain the different options that may be presented to them. And then you're sitting there like, oh, I didn't know we were supposed to pay this, or why would we pay this?
Like, why are they even asking? Like,
exactly.
I didn't know people would be asking for that.
So preparing a seller beforehand
to know what they may see, that's very good.
It's very helpful. And then also, like, are you about to be a buyer? And if so, or were you a first-time buyer when you purchased this house? Did you get seller help from seller concessions from your from the person who sold you the house? And you may not remember, because some people seem to forget some things that they got from when they bought the house. So just remember and put yourself back in those buyers' shoes. Like, okay, they're first time home buyers. They may not have cash on hand. They may be veterans, depending on what their financing is. So you can kind of understand and see like, all right, let me put myself in their shoes and let me go ahead and help them out. I'm not losing any money, so what do I care? They offered more and that'll make up the difference. So why not? And they may like them better. And they also may like the agent a lot better. Because your agent also matters, because you get a bad agent that like presents an offer and you've already worked with them. Like if your listing agent has already worked with that agent, they may be like, absolutely not. Deals have fallen through. I don't trust this agent. I don't trust the offers that they put in. But this agent over here, she actually always presents good offers. Her offer and her closings always go through. Let's move forward with them. So again, I think it's about the package. And like you said, things that they offer, other things they offer too.
That's very good. It is a whole package. It's definitely not just a one thing versus one thing. So just you have, I think, a good opportunity to create a good package that works for you and that can still be favorable, for all parties. So I had a train of thought. I feel like it left me. No, that's okay.
Sorry.
But I think I think I was thinking something about when you were saying, are you also buying? Like, are you selling and then buying as well? So there's just so many details to transactions for both buyers and sellers to consider. So it is good, like you said, for a seller to really think about the whole package across the offers that they're receiving and think about what their next steps are. So, which one most aligns with your goals, that you have for your next steps as well. Because again, maybe somebody's asking for help, but maybe the timeline that they're also offering is better and all the things for what you need on your end too. So it's the whole package, and just weigh it. But it's not a terrible thing, and it's not a negative thing for someone to be asking you for a seller concession, because it don't have anything to do with you while they're asking for a little bit of support with their closing costs. It's for their, their financial pockets. So it's not a negative thing if you receive offers as a seller for seller concessions. They're just asking for a little bit of help to get the deal done.
Yeah, get it done. Do you feel like they could, like the sellers could lose out on profit when and if a buyer does ask for seller concessions? Like, let's say a house has been sitting maybe for, like more than 2 weeks. Do you feel like offers that come in, or the offer that comes in, that if they do ask for seller concession, that they wouldn't offer more? They're gonna offer like it with the list prices and still offer seller concessions?
Yeah. I was like,
we're gonna keep it real, okay?
Yeah,
we're gonna give you that. We're gonna give it to you all.
Yeah. The longer that your home is sitting on the market, you should expect that somebody is going to be asking for a concession and probably offering closer to list price, unless maybe they're trying to wiggle it up still for you to ask for concessions and move the price up a little bit for your profit. But yeah, you can expect the longer it sits that it is possible for them to be closer to list price and for them to be asking for something.
Yeah. I mean, if I was
trying to leave here with something.
I mean, I was too. If I was a buyer and I know like I'm gonna get a good deal, I mean, and the worst you could do is ask. And if you're wondering like in the DMV, kind of what the standard is, it seems like the standard is about 3%.
Yeah.
Sellers, do you have to agree to that? No. Can you negotiate? Yes. I mean, real estate is all about negotiation. So you're like, you know what? We like your offer, but we do not want to give you we don't want to contribute the entire 3%. We want to contribute, 2% or 1.5%. Or you can also, you don't have to do a percentage. You could do a flat amount. Yeah. You can be like, hey, I just want to give you $5,000, and that's up to the buyer if they want to accept it. But I mean, it's better than nothing. So I feel like it could help. Some buyers honestly just don't have it either.
Yeah.
They don't have it, and the only way they can get a house is if the seller provides a seller concession. So that does limit them sometimes on the homes that they can purchase, but they can still get into a home. Yeah. It's just which seller is okay with providing seller concessions. And it's not uncommon. It's very common here.
Like it's very common. It's again not negative on either party to ask for it, to give it. It's really all options. Yeah. Like everybody has an option. Everybody has room to negotiate. And so you might as well just ask for what you need. Yeah. And, on the seller side, you, again, like you said, have the option to say yes, no, or I can do this instead. And it can be favorable and fair for both parties, and y'all can get to the closing table. That's the bottom. Everybody's number one goal should be getting to the closing table and, being able to move forward with your next step. So for the buyers, getting into the home, the sellers moving on to, the new home, new location, whatever they're doing next. So that's the number one goal. And then, what makes sense for you getting there and doing what you need to do after. So that's it.
Yeah. Love that. That was simple, easy.
So don't be afraid of seller concessions as a seller, to give them, and don't be afraid to ask for seller concessions as a buyer. But we hope you all learned something new this episode. Thanks for joining us again. Remember that you can watch us on YouTube. Be sure to subscribe to that channel, and you can listen to us on any podcast platform. And we look forward to seeing you next week.